Welcome back to CGO Gets to Know series. Just a reminder to everybody that this is a series of where I get to meet our most valuable asset within our organization, which is our people, or the most valuable asset to our clients. There's been a slight break from this series, largely because our people have been out delivering value to our clients and been incredibly busy. But today's topic is around one of the things that keeps us most busy at Dufrain, which is the pressing and various needs for clients to move from a legacy data architecture and platforms to modern data architecture and platforms. And much of this is driven by the need to be AI and automation ready. I'm here today with David Mills, one of our senior architects. David, it'd be great for you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so my name's Dave Mills. I am an Azure data architect. Worked for Dufrain for just over 2 years, although I have actually been involved with data since the year 2000, since the Millennium Bug. So we're talking about 25 years now. Wow. So yeah, I actually started my career working with Oracle databases. So I was originally an Oracle Forms developer, then I moved up to a senior Oracle DBA for a very large energy company. I noticed that Microsoft were really catching up with Oracle. And that's when I decided to jump ship to Microsoft SQL Server. So that's when I really started to get involved with SQL Server on-prem and ETL. I then moved into Azure around about 2019. That's when I started to get involved specifically with the back-end products. So talking Azure Synapse Analytics, Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Managed Instance. And then around about 18 months ago, Fabric came onto the scene, Microsoft Fabric. So I really started to get involved with some of the data engineering in Fabric, but a lot of the Microsoft Fabric architecture as well. So my role at the moment is sort of a hybrid between Azure data architecture and Fabric data architecture.
Wow, I'm really excited to talk to somebody who's had such a long career in data and seen so much modernization and change. And given the pace at which we're moving at right now, you're in the kind of the front seat for that. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. I really want to understand what, when we talk a lot about modern data architecture and the movement to that, and what that potentially could bring for an organization. So I'd really like to understand what you see as being the opportunities, and a little bit about whether this is a philosophical change, whether that's driven by business need, or more philosophy in the data community. But yeah, love to hear about those opportunities.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Dan. So for the clients that I work with, I'd say automation and AI are sort of becoming foundational to how they can actually deliver value faster. Value is the key word. But to truly unlock that potential, you can't just have legacy systems that are holding you back. And that's sort of where the migration and modernization comes into play. So it's not just about doing a simple lift and shift data to the cloud. It's about rethinking how the data is used, how the insights are delivered, and how the teams actually collaborate around the data itself. So when the framework with clients, we're not just talking about moving the data from A to B. We're talking about how you can enable ways of working that supports automation and AI using a modern data platform from the ground up. So this is where Microsoft Fabric comes into play. So that's where it really helps sort of unify these efforts and bring in the data engineering, the data warehousing, data science, real-time analytics, and BI all under one platform. So that's how Microsoft Fabric helps with sort of automating that process.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it's migrate and modernize, not just migrate. Yeah. But equally, you need to have the kind of a really clear view of what your modernization looks like before you start that migration path. So really interesting. I think at Dufrain, we work with many platforms and technologies, but you specifically have chosen to be, chosen to get your black belt in Microsoft and specifically recently Microsoft Fabric. Why do you think Fabric specifically is having such an impact on clients, but also the data buyer and data community more general?
What I'd say about the data community in general, the landscape at the moment, in my opinion, I think is quite crowded. So there are a lot of platforms out there claiming to do everything, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming to clients to actually choose the right one. So as an example, should we choose SQL Server on-prem? Should we stay on-prem? What about Azure? Then you've got Snowflake, you've got Databricks as well. And also you've got Microsoft Fabric, which is sort of the newish kid on the block. So it's been in general availability since I think November 2023. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, what's the correct choice? So as an architect, what really drew me to Fabric is its simplicity. So with the modern data platform, that's sort of expected to be end to end, and that's where Fabric, in my opinion, it sort of stands out as a single unified experience. So I sort of mentioned earlier, it brings together data engineering, data warehousing, real-time analytics, data science, business intelligence. It's all under one roof and with one specific security model. And from a future-proofing standpoint, Fabric is also built with AI in mind. So whether it's Copilot or machine learning, it's designed to help clients move from insights to intelligent action without the need for bolting on extra complexity. And that's a really important thing for me. I like architectures to be as simple as they possibly can be. And because Fabric's all under one roof, I find it quite, well, I wouldn't say really easy to architect a system because they all have different use cases, but I find it easier to architect a solution in Fabric than I did with Azure in the past, because with Azure, although the solutions work and they're fine, you have different components sort of bolted on here, there, and everywhere. But with Fabric, because it's all under one roof, for me, it's a lot easier. And I find that clients with Fabric are finding it a lot easier to sort of visualize how the end-to-end data movement works, from ingestion to transformation to reporting at the end. So that's the reason why I got into Fabric, and that's why I can see some serious adoption with it. I think companies and clients are taking it very seriously now, especially at the start of this year. We're seeing a lot of adoption, a lot of people or clients moving away from proof of concepts, proof of values, MVPs, into fully productionized enterprise systems. So it's all guns blazing for Fabric at the moment.
That's really interesting. I think I mean, you talked about the componentized approach. And I think large scale enterprise, you're kind of stuck with that a little bit if that's the decision you've made, and it probably is the right decision. You want the right tool for the right job, and you'll have multi-cloud environments, you'll have a mix of hybrid cloud as well, and then all the complexities that of a data landscape, particularly if you've been an enterprise for a long time. But I think where we're also seeing quite a lot of opportunity is the opportunity that Fabric brings to businesses that haven't been able to kind of access those more advanced tool sets, and actually who are really realizing the opportunity within AI and automation in their business, but have thought that that's perhaps out of reach for them or too complicated to get to because of their size. So tell me a little bit about how Fabric is impacting that kind of mid-enterprise to lower mid-enterprise segment in the market.
What I'd say nowadays, arguably, the smaller organisations have even more to gain from adopting a modern data platform like Fabric early on. You see, smaller organisations generally, they don't have as much red tape or legacy baggage, which means they can move faster, innovate quicker, and sort of leapfrog their competitors, but only if they have the right data foundation in place. So that's where the data architect comes into play to design and visualize and implement a system. So Fabric is sort of very well suited for these kind of organizations.
Right.
It's like a software as a service, so you don't need a big IT team to manage the infrastructure. It's also pay as you go, so you can scale your business as it grows. And because it's unified, you don't need to have several licenses to integrate all the different products. So everything from ingestion to reporting is built in. One thing about Fabric as well, you can even have it for a 60-day free trial. So even if you don't like using Fabric, you can use it for free, 60 days. And if you are happy with it, then you can move up to a high-level paid SKU. And one thing you mentioned about, is it out of reach for the AI side? Not anymore, because you can actually have Copilot on the lowest paid SKU in Fabric. Before it was F64, which is quite expensive, but now you can actually use Copilot on an F2 SKU, so you can actually use the AI within Copilot if you're a smaller business and you have constraints on your budget.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And if I'm the buyer in that situation, and you've got all of this opportunity from Fabric, in front of you, I suspect that could be quite daunting for them. And it might be a kind of a difficult question of where do I focus first, and what does this unlock for me, and how am I understanding the value of that? So talk to me a little bit about how Dufrain approach that with clients to make it, to make the kind of the smaller organization comfortable with the capability that's in front of them.
Yeah, again, it's a really good question, Dan. Well, what I personally like to do at Dufrain, it's not just a question of me coming on site, understanding what the business requirements are, and then implement a data architecture using Fabric. What I'm really keen to do is help the client actually really understand all of the different components within Fabric. So they can make an educated choice of, okay, do I use a data warehouse or do I use a lakehouse? Do I really need to use real-time analytics? Do I really need to get involved in the data science components in Fabric? So they don't have to use every single component. They can just pick and choose the relevant components that they need. And that's where Dufrain come in. And we provide, well, certainly provide training on Microsoft Fabric, all the different areas that the client is interested in. And that will also help keep the costs down as well. So as I said, there are different paid SKUs on Fabric, and we just want to make sure that the client doesn't pay incorrectly for the components that they want to use. So it's a question of training the client on Fabric and not just doing the architecture, doing the data engineering, and then saying goodbye.
Great. Well, I'm sure, and I know that with a lot of our clients, they're very appreciative of that. Great. Well, it's been really good to spend some time with you today, Dave. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Fabric and how that kind of fits into the broader data services we offer. But yeah, really good to spend time with you today, and looking forward to chatting further.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. As I said, with Fabric, it's all guns blazing at the moment. I'm seeing serious adoption with it from not just smaller businesses, but mid-size and bigger clients as well. So it really is looking good for the rest of the year and beyond.
Well done, Microsoft.